Camping in cold weather, particularly in the snow, is not necessarily everyone's idea of fun, nor is bugging out in extreme conditions. But the reality is, we may just have to deal with whatever nature has to throw at us. So I'm going to share some of my tips on how to stay warm, particularly in a rooftop tent, some of the things that I've learned, some tips from friends, and even from homeless people. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. So I'm camped out in the Matroosberg, and special thanks to the reserve for hosting me. As far as bugging out goes, you may just need to have a couple tricks up your sleeve to ensure that you can stay warm even in the cold conditions, particularly if your bug out shelter of choice is a rooftop tent. How to stay warm in a rooftop tent, especially in really cold conditions or severe weather, is quite easily solved from a survivalist perspective. Again, we start looking at core body temperature regulation and how we can manage that. And in a rooftop tent setting, there's quite a lot that we can do to stay warm. So firstly, we want to stay out of the wind and we want to stay out of the rain. Now, if you've got a decent shelter system, a rooftop tent that is strong and robust, you'll be able to do that quite easily. Now, this is Frontrunner's rooftop tent. I'm actually quite impressed with it because there was a severe snowstorm last night. It's actually why I was awake at 3 a.m. At one point, I was wondering whether I was still going to have a fly sheet in the morning, but this tent has weathered the storm really well. Okay, so it is now 3:45 in the morning. The reason I'm actually awake is because the wind was howling at one point and I couldn't sleep, so I actually just woke up from that. The tent is completely dry, so I'm quite happy with that. When you're in a rooftop tent, you still move in and out of the tent quite a bit. So every time I go outside, if it's snowing or it's raining, I end up getting absolutely soaked. But you don't want to transfer all of that moisture to your sleeping system. So your bed needs to stay dry. So what I've done is I've created a small space at the front of my tent where I can take off my waterproof layer, which is obviously wet. And because this tent has got quite a big space at the front here, I've been able to stash my gumboots here, and I'm able to hang my Craghopper's waterproof jacket as well as my waterproof trousers underneath the awning. I actually had to put my wet layers back on to come outside. Even though that felt counterintuitive, it has actually kept me dry. It was snowing something crazy a few minutes ago, so at least I'm dry. The first part of a decent sleeping system is a sleeping bag that has a comfort rating for the temperatures that you're looking to use it in. So for layering my sleeping system, I've got a blanket folded double, another blanket folded double. I do get cold really quickly, so to me it's important to have multiple layers to stay warm. Then I've got a First Ascent Icebreaker sleeping bag. This is the First Ascent thermal liner. It is rated for 15 degrees, so it should add an extra 15 degrees to your sleeping system, but I can't honestly say that it makes me feel 15 degrees warmer. Another blanket underneath my sleeping bag, because not only do you want to prevent heat loss from the top, you also want to prevent heat loss to the bottom. And then a winter sheet on my mattress. I've also got a electric blanket that I plug into the Ecoflow. It is a king size electric blanket that I've brought from home, and because it doesn't quite fit in here completely, I've had to fold it, which you're not really supposed to do. But the result is that I've got a double layer electric blanket and two controllers that sit on the side of my bed. So I can easily turn the electric blanket on during the night if it gets really cold. And redo my shoelaces here. But yeah, it is frozen out here. I definitely think I'm going to turn that electric blanket on now, because I haven't had it on before. And I put some beers here in the snow. We'll see what they look like in the morning. To keep the electric blanket working, I'm using an Ecoflow River Pro, and the electric blanket doesn't use a whole lot of power. It's like 30 watts on medium setting, so I can get a whole lot of hours of use out of the electric blanket just through the Ecoflow. Now, one of my friends has a trick up her sleeve. When she goes camping in winter, she uses cardboard boxes and newspaper to insulate her bed. It's an extra layer of insulation, and it is actually a really good way to insulate your bedding. Because of the air pocket inside the cardboard box, it also prevents heat loss. It's also the reason why the homeless people manage so well with cardboard boxes and newspaper. Another friend of mine is from Germany, and he says he used to have one of the diesel heaters for his rooftop tent when he lived there. It is an effective way to heat the room or the compartment on the inside of your rooftop tent, but you do have to have the insulating layer on the inside. Otherwise, you basically just lose all of that heat. So if you are looking to acquire a diesel heater to stay warm in your rooftop tent, make sure that you get the quilted liner for the tent as well. That way you're going to use less energy trying to heat the compartment, and it's going to maintain the heat much better. One of my favorite things in this winter camp has been my hot water bottle. I really think that it has been the most effective way to heat my toes, because if you're walking around in the snow, your shoes actually do get wet, and even in the gum boots, which are completely waterproof, my toes have actually felt frozen, and the one thing that I've kept on coming back to is a hot water bottle. So it's an easy and effective way to heat yourself, and it maintains its heat quite well during the night. So I made this hot water bottle, I think 8 o'clock last night, and at 5 o'clock this morning I could still feel that it was warm. So it makes a huge difference. Obviously it requires for you to be able to make fire or to boil a kettle on a gas stove, but those are easily done and easily solved. So I'm using a gas bottle at the moment to fuel my fires, and then I'm also using a Kodak gas stove just to cook some things on. So not just is hot water good in a hot water bottle, but also a hot shower can make a huge difference to your core body temperature before you go to bed. I've got a 12-volt shower system that sits on the side of my roof rack. It doesn't matter how cold it is outside, it's always lovely to get under a hot shower. A couple years ago when I was at varsity, I'm not going to tell you how long ago, we used to have a little trick to heat our rooms in the residence. If you couldn't get an electric heater in your room, then what we would do is we would take a hairdryer, which is a very inefficient way of heating anything other than your hair, and you plug the hairdryer in and just let it run in the room, and it does quite effectively heat the compartment, especially a small compartment like a rooftop tent. So this is a 1200 watt hairdryer that I plug into the Ecoflow if I do need to dry my hair for whatever reason at camp, but I can also use it to warm the inside of this compartment just to get the ambient temperature in the cabin a little bit higher. So the Ecoflow allows appliances of up to 1800 watts, and it just steps them down to 600 watt. So I can still use my hairdryer even if it is just plugged into the Ecoflow. Now the Ecoflow is just being powered by the solar panels that I've got sitting outside in my camp, which haven't actually charged all that well because it's been raining and snowing and overcast most of the time. There's some sunshine now. But yeah, with the intermittent weather absolutely volatile, I haven't gotten the Ecoflow to charge completely full. I've only gotten it up to about 80%. But even so, I've managed to run my electric blanket from it and power all of my devices. Now, last but not least, the Bible tells us that two sleep warmer under the same blanket than one does. So it's always good to have your family or your friends around just to cuddle up and get that extra body heat. It's also one of the principles of dealing with hypothermia. So keep it in mind if you are in snowy conditions, because somebody falls into a river and is suddenly hypothermic, and it happens quite fast. You lose body temperature quite quickly, especially in extreme cold water. Body heat that you get from another body can really help you to stay warm. And that doesn't just go for another person. Pets, dogs, cats can also keep you really nice and warm. Junie, so Juniper has come to camp with me. Come say hello. Ooh, hello. Hello, kitty. Where did your jersey go? Hey, did you leave your jersey in the bed? So it's quite nice to have her around because she sleeps on top of me at night, or she just cuddles with me. But she's quite a nice little warm body. Hey, no? Why is it so white outside, Junie? You can go back to bed now. Thank you, kitty. So bring your dog or your cat along and put them in the bed with you and deal with the fleas later. Another tip that I've learned from one of my friends who has a daughter in high school is to change inside your sleeping bag or inside your bed. So you maintain a whole lot more of your body heat by changing in a warmer environment. Whereas if you're in an open cabin like this, you're going to lose body heat a lot faster, and your body's going to work a lot harder in order to warm you up again later. So keep your pajamas or warm base layers or anything like camera batteries and stuff is also really good to keep inside your bed. gloves, extra socks, and especially an extra dry layer. I've always got an extra layer of clothes that I keep dry at camp, just so that if something happens, I land up getting caught in the weather and I'm absolutely desperate for a change into dry clothing, I've already got a dry layer of clothes. And especially if the ambient temperature is really cold, everything that sits out here actually gets cold as well. So stashing all of it inside your bed is a great idea. You can see this bed is full of stuff, pajamas and extra clothes and batteries and a cat. If you've liked this video, remember to hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Follow me on social media, and until the next time, live ready.